Hi everyone, I'm Paige Abbott, and this is your recovery message for the week of December 4th, 2016. Well, this week I thought I would talk about an emotion that here at Hum we tend to talk about a lot and encourage clients to look at very often, and that is the emotion of shame. I find that with shame, people experience it all the time, but they may not know that it's shame. They may not label it as shame. And in recovery, it's so important to be able to connect, identify, and process that feeling of shame, because shame is such a built-in generator of addictive thinking and addictive behavior, that if you're not focused on what shame is and processing it, then you're missing some really valuable information that can really help to stabilize and clarify your recovery. The first thing that I want to do is differentiate shame from guilt, because I find a lot of people get these confused. And it's important to note that guilt is more of an intellectual sort of thinking process, and guilt is more about the things that we have done. So guilt is, I did bad. I said something that was hurtful. I acted in a way that I know was inappropriate. I stole something. I hurt somebody. I lied. So guilt is, I did bad. Shame is quite a bit different than that. So shame is more in the feeling, and actually even lower. You can't see, but I'm pointing to my stomach, the region just below the rib cage, and that's where shame resides. So shame is a core feeling and emotion that, rather than just thinking that I've done something bad, shame tells us that I am bad. So shame is this deeper level of unworthiness, despair. It's very deep, it's very entrenched, it has very strong roots, and usually the roots of that shame is generated in childhood, when we start to perceive messages and things that have happened in our lives as telling us that we are unworthy, unlovable, just overall bad people. There are different types of shame, so you may feel quite comfortable and quite confident with who you are, let's say in the workplace, but you may feel and experience a lot of shame with who you are in personal relationships or friendships or with family. Some people feel financial shame and insecurity. There's so many different ways that we can experience shame, and so many places that shame can manifest. The key thing in the pursuit of recovery is just to be able to keep sitting with that feeling. So when you start to notice a heaviness in your chest or even a sickness in your stomach, butterflies in your stomach, you feel like you've been punched in the gut, you feel like you've had the breath knocked out of you, those are the physical signs that you're experiencing shame. Even if you can't necessarily connect that to shame in that moment, I would encourage you to just stop. Stop in that moment and sit with that feeling. You need to learn to get comfortable sitting with your shame, because addiction will want you to run away and avoid that feeling at all costs. So pick up, use, act out, numb, avoid, do anything that you can to get away from that uncomfortable feeling of shame. So part of recovery is learning to, like I said, identify shame when it's there, but then to also be able to sit with it and process it. And the next step to healing from shame is that you need to be able to talk about the things that you're carrying shame about. So starting to translate shame back into guilt, rather than being stuck at that level of shame for the rest of your life. That's my perspective on shame versus guilt. I hope that that's a helpful reminder for those of you who are already exploring shame in your recovery. And for those of you who are not, I hope that this opens up the door to being able to sit with the feeling of shame and incorporate it into your healing. That's all for me. I wish you the best in your ongoing recovery for the week, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks.